What's going on YouTube? Welcome to another video. If you're new to the channel, I welcome you. Hit the subscribe button, followed by the bell notification so you never miss an upload. And since you're watching this video, hit that like button. Helps me out a lot and I'd really appreciate it. So I made a couple videos on potential spoilers, and one of those videos talked about the potential of Sidney's death as well as Dewey and Gale. And I got a ton of comments regarding people's opinions, how they felt it was a spite towards Wes and it wouldn't happen. And I kind of wanted to have a sort of open discussion video. Been wanting to do this type of video for a while, where we just talk about various topics. I give my opinions, state my piece, and then hear from you guys in the comments, and then we have discussions that way. And I thought this was a perfect one to kind of be the first video for, because a lot of people had opinions on this topic. So when it comes to Sidney, Gale, and Dewey and the Scream franchise, yes, realistically, chances are if any of them were going to die, it'd be Dewey and Gale. I would argue Dewey over anybody, just for the fact that, you know, Dewey has already died in almost every film. So, and him being the sheriff, it kind of makes sense. You know, he would get ran up on, or especially if there's multiple killers. Like, there's a lot of rumors that there are going to be more than two. And I know people have said in the comments that, oh, 5 killers or more than 2, there's only going to be 1, it doesn't make any sense. And I sort of disagree with that. I mean, the original plot for Scream 3, and they even wanted to do for Scream 4, was a cult-like following that where all these people idolized Ghostface and went out and killing people. That the director even made the writer and directors even made that show, I believe is called The Following, which was supposed to be the premise of a Scream movie. So the fact that there are, you know, a handful of killers actually makes sense to me. It's what they wanted to do for a long time, and it would be something that, you know, they've already stated several times that they want to sort of bring it back to the originals, to the classics, where everybody is a suspect type thing. So it makes sense that everybody is a suspect, and a majority of them really are the killers. So I think that makes a lot of sense. And when you look at it that way, it would make sense that the big three would die. And I know people feel like, oh, it's the Sidney show, it's the movie is about Sidney. Yes and no. I mean, a lot of it is about the story and following the killer. Who is the killer? What's the killer's motive? What is, you know, it's Ghostface. The movie is called Scream. It's not called Sidney, you know, and they're getting older. And I've seen lots of people say, oh, she wouldn't sign on if, you know, if she knew she was going to die. Again, I disagree. I mean, would you rather her live and, say, die of old age or, you know, whatever? I mean, eventually they're not going to want to keep doing Scream. You know, Nev, you know, David Arquette, and, you know, Courtney Cox, eventually they're going to get to the point where they're just like, you know, like, we've done 40 of these, we don't want to do anymore. Or they're just going to get too old, or, you know, somebody's going to die in real life or whatever. And they want to continue the story. They want to continue making these movies. They want to continue the franchise. They want to attract newer audiences. And so if that's the case, the big three, the OG three, are not as much of a staple. Yeah, it's going to piss off a lot of the, you know, fans. I mean, wouldn't be happy. I mean, Scream is my favorite movie of all time because of, you know, its sort of authenticity. It's not a, you know, monster that's unrealistic. It's just a bunch of people just crazy. I mean, you see that stuff on the news every day. So I think that wanting to attract a new audience and wanting to appoint a new Sidney, I think it makes a lot of sense that she would die. And a lot of the previous movies, Scream 3, even Scream 4, especially Scream 3, Sidney was supposed to die. She wasn't supposed to make it past that, and that was back with Wes. And it doesn't, as long as they make good films, and as long as it's, enjoyable. People are going to watch it. Yeah, you might be upset that she dies, but in the end, if it's the best Scream yet, are you really going to be like that? Man, that was incredible, but Sidney died, so I give up on the franchise. No, you're going to be like, man, I can't wait to watch the next one, especially if it leaves on a cliffhanger or something like that. And them not signing on because they're going to die doesn't make any sense to me. It would make more sense that they would tell them up front, like, look, this is going to be your guys' last film. We want to, end your story and start a new story. Would you guys sign on for one last film? And I could see them saying, yeah, sure. It's not a spite to Wes. It's nothing like that. Wes's legacy is in the Scream films. It's not in Sidney. He's not tied to Sidney. He had plans for her to die in the past. So her dying isn't like, oh, well, that was just a spite to Wes. No, it would still continue the legacy. As long as they're sticking to the sort of script of Scream and the premise and the idea, and they don't turn it into something it's not, then they're continuing the legacy. They're not causing any rift or anything like that. Yeah, fans are going to be upset, but it's just how it goes. I mean, every movie, franchise kills off the main person eventually. People, I even saw somebody that argued, Jamie Lee Curtis in Halloween. Like, she wasn't in half of those films, and she did die in Halloween Resurrection. And yeah, they made that not canon, but she did die. Lots of main characters, main protagonists over the years and over these long franchises have met their end. And it would make sense. It makes sense that they would die in a tragic way. I do understand people's arguments because one of the spoilers was that Sidney would die in the beginning of the film. Yes, I don't think that's realistic. But it would make sense. I mean, get it out of the way, instead of drawing it out. And that was what sort of brings everyone together. But I don't agree. I do agree that she probably will make it towards, at least the midway point, if not the end. But I do think that there will be a new Sidney. Whether, it is this film or the next, because they want to do several more films. I just think in these coming films, we are seeing the end of the OG3, the big three. I think eventually they are going to meet their end. And I would rather it be that way personally than them dying off screen. Like, oh yeah, Sidney retired in the hills somewhere and just died of old age with her dog. Like, that's not doing service or justice to me. Like, if that happened, I'd be pissed. I'd be like, what? Like, what? Like, and, there is the argument, like, okay, well, why not reboot it? Like, why not start fresh? And it's like, okay, well, so then you could reboot the franchise. One, I think that's played out and exhausted. I mean, everything's being rebooted nowadays. I mean, even the new Jeepers Creepers, I even covered a video on that. I'll link that in the description. But, they're rebooting Jeepers Creepers. They're rebooting all these movies where I feel like they just want to continue the story. And I feel like that's a better way to go than what? You start fresh. Scream's whole point is to have, multiple killers in every movie, surprises in every movie. It's somebody else, who's the killer, what's the killer, rebooting it just, I mean, I feel like it's irrelevant when it comes to Scream because every film is essentially a reboot. It's just, they just have the same characters and the same cast. Like, yeah, you could reboot it just so you don't have to kill Sidney or whatever. But I feel like you're leaving so much on the table. I mean, even the way Scream 4 ended, I just feel like, if you don't continue the story, say Scream 4 was the final movie. Like, do you really want that to be the way that the story ends? Like, I feel like there's so much more that could be told, whether they live or not. it just, and people even try to write off Scream 4. People, I've seen comments, oh, Scream 3 is where it ends for me. So, and even then, at the end of Scream 3, there was tons of talk that, Roman had an accomplice, that he couldn't have done it by himself. Like, it doesn't make any sense to reboot it. And it's just my opinion. And again, I want to hear from you guys. It's just my opinion that they would continue the story and ultimately lead to Sidney's demise. Whether people want to hear that or not, I just think it's inevitable. It's going to happen eventually. If not this film, it's going to happen, eventually down the road. But again, this is an open discussion. I want to hear from you. I'd love to hear from you. Leave comments. Let me know. I will try to respond to all of them if possible. Sometimes the comments get kind of crazy and carried away, and it's hard to keep up, but I will do my best because, again, I want to have open discussions with these type of videos, and that's where we can have it in the comment section. So leave a comment. Let me know what you think. If you're not already, make sure to subscribe to the channel, followed by the bell notifications, and if you haven't already, be sure to like the video. I appreciate it. Till next time.